Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu jami'an. Inshallah, today will be an introduction of myself and my YouTube channel, Abu Baraa Muhammad Amreeki. This particular video will be the introduction, in particular about myself, and it's specifically for my YouTube page and YouTube channel. My name is Abu Baraa Muhammad Amreeki, and I am working in Dawah for maybe the last 10 years or so. So today I'd like to introduce myself, or a formal introduction of myself, and a little bit of my studies and places I have been. To do some reading, I need my reading glasses. I'm from the New York area in particular, and my studies of Islam goes really back to in my early 20s or my mid 20s, actually my mid 20s, maybe my early to my mid 20s, from doing some traveling. I embraced Islam in 1998 with being incarcerated in prison, and after my release in 2001, I was released from prison 2 days or 2 weeks prior to 9/11 events in New York, and me being from New York City. The events of 9/11 really showed me the condition of the Muslims, in particular in New York. In many places, when 9/11 happened, that's not really another story for another day, but when 9/11 really happened in New York, I seen for some of the Muslims the two faces, right? People who you thought they were strong Muslims, you're seeing another face of them. So during that event, that really inspired me to really learn a little bit more about Islam from what I wanted to learn. So maybe like in 2003, I have completed my parole. Was on parole, and once I finished parole, I have moved to Canada. Prior to moving to Canada, I have studied a little bit about Arabic language. But being from New York City, there's really not a really place to learn religion or Islam that's consistent. How I was introduced to Salafi Dawah, it goes back to the early 2000s, dealing with certain brothers or individuals who I knew while I was incarcerated. One of them were a brother who I seen give a khutbah while I was in prison. And the brother, mashallah, may Allah reward him, he was a Salafi brother who used to go to Masjid Muslimin, and he used to work upstate New York as a chaplain in the corrections. I met him one day in Queens, and we was talking and stuff, and I told him I remember him. I believe the brother lives in Saudi right now. Matter of fact, one of his brothers is on my page. He might even see this video. I'm gonna send it to him. One of his older brothers, Safwan. The brother name is Safwan, and he really have a little introduction about Salafiyah from the brother Safwan, who used to go to Masjid Muslimin, which is one of the Salafi masjids in Brooklyn, which no longer exists. From that, alhamdulillah, I met many other Muslims after that from the Salafi Dawah, from different places, different brothers I know from different communities in New York. And alhamdulillah, that was a little bit introduction to learning, basically, right? Because I really haven't seen any of the Muslims in New York City that was pertaining to seeking knowledge. It really wasn't a hardcore thing or a thing that was really centered around, and most masjids movements for the Salafi movement really push seeking out. So from that, experience. I have moved to Canada for 2 years. And before I moved to Canada, I used to study language with some brothers I knew who graduated from Medina University. One particular brother I knew graduated from Medina, and that was really my introduction into the Arabic language. And after that, I moved to Canada for about 2 years. When I lived in Canada, I lived in Vancouver, Canada, and I used to go to a place called Dar Medina. And there was a sheikh there who origin is from South Africa, Sheikh Yunus. Sometimes I post some of his sayings on Facebook. He was, mashallah, he was one of the brothers I have met who graduated from Medina that I've seen that really consisted in calling people to Allah and teaching Islam. From there, my experience in Canada, I met other individuals, other personalities, Salafi brothers, where the environment in Canada, it's not like the environment in New York, right? In the environment in Canada, I wasn't East Coast Canada. I was West Coast Canada, Vancouver. That's West Coast Canada. It's a very different vibe. Um, People are very laid back, no cold weather, just rain season. From there, I really start learning a little bit more about learning Arabic language and religion, and then start learning a little bit more things about the religion from the proper way from somebody who has graduated from Medina and who was consistent in teaching. And from there, I have met other individuals, other my companions who I still keep in contact today. From there, I came back to the U.S. and I studied the Arabic language locally with one or two of my companions who had studied Arabic. I got a good grasp, but didn't get to master or become fluent. And for some people, it's very hard to master Arabic in this environment. For some people, it's very easy if you put in the right environment, if you read the right people. But I didn't get what I wanted, so I furthered my studies by going to Egypt. When I went to Egypt, I hooked up with some of my companions from Canada who one of them who was a student in one of the universities who father is also a sheikh, and he's a sheikh himself. He has his PhD right now. He hooked me up with an Arabic program for free to study in Cairo, Egypt, and it was sponsored by Saudis, the Saudi peoples, for from the zakat money for people who live in Western countries who want to learn religion and learn Arabic language. So they really paid for the studies, and I just had to pay my way there. I have a video somewhere else about how I got there. All right. I have another video somewhere else talk about that. So from there, I started Arabic language, and I studied in al-Qortoba Arabic Institute. Which, matter of fact, the owner of Qortoba, he's on my Facebook page, Shaykh Dr. I will send him this particular video. And I have very benefit a lot in Qortoba. I stayed there for about 6 months. It was a very good program. It's very intense. I really was able to grasp a lot about the Arabic language in that school for the 6 months. After the 6 months, something happened in the school. I think the school was closed down, and I decided to go back to the U.S. And I said to myself that I learned enough about Arabic conversation, speaking and stuff, that I could come back to Egypt and I don't have to depend on being with a program, particular program. I could go anywhere I want. So I came back to the U.S. Alhamdulillah, and I saved for 1 year. I worked in Home Depot for 1 year. Because when I lived in Canada, I picked up a trade, a skill. When I lived in Canada for about 2 years. And I picked up a skill. I picked up masonry. Tiling. Tiling really is masonry. I picked up masonry for natural stone. I worked as an apprentice for 2 years. So I picked up that skill. So when I came back to the U.S., I worked for about Home Depot about 1 year selling flooring things related to flooring, related to tiling and masonry and all that stuff. Because I was very much familiarized with that trade and selling that stuff too. I learned from Home Depot. So I saved for 1 year about close to, alhamdulillah, maybe about $10,000. Alhamdulillah, 1 year. That's before the economy had went bad. So I went back to Egypt, but I didn't go straight there. I went to Morocco for a little while, right? So I went to Morocco for a little while, and Morocco has its beauties. Morocco has, its beauties, its peoples, because I spent time in Egypt, but Morocco and Egypt are like night and day. Moroccan people have uh, some of the good etiquettes and manners, very open peoples. Like when I was in Egypt for that short time, you experience a little bit of racism from the Egyptian peoples, right? In Cairo, very some bad manners and some racism. But I was in Morocco, I was very much impressed. The people were very friendly. I went there to look to get married, so we already know how that goes. So on my stay in Morocco, I was like, man, there's so much beauty here, nice peoples, but it's not like the environment of Egypt, where in Egypt it's a little bit cheaper to live. And Egypt, in Cairo in particular, and other places in Egypt, seeking knowledge is very easy. There's many institutes to learn religion. Morocco, you have to look for it, all right? And then it's very expensive. So after 6 months in Morocco, I decided to let me go back to Egypt. And I went back to Egypt, but I didn't stay in Cairo, right? Because I really didn't like Cairo. So I stayed in the village in Tanta, in some villages in Tanta area. Tanta is very famous in Egypt for Quran, Akhul Quran, all right? A lot of the sheikhs from Egypt that you see from Egypt, the famous reciters like this, majority of them are from the Tanta region or the Delta area, right? Tanta is in the Delta area. So I stayed there in the Delta area. I didn't stay in Cairo, and I lived with one of my companions who was Egyptian, and he told me don't stay in Cairo, come stay with him in the village. So when I was in the village in Egypt, I never forget the name of the village. It's called Abu Hamr, huh? Abu Hamr. I stayed in this village for a little while. It's not like Morocco. It wasn't like the Cairo where it's a little bit, it's like farmland. So I stayed there, and while I was there, reviewing Quran and things like that, my friend told me that his father, who had passed away before I came there, he used to love a particular sheikh in that area, you know. And he said that, his father, before he died, he became very religious before he died. He used to wear his white kutra and jalabiya all the time. And he said, his father used to visit the sheikh in the next village. And he said, I want to take you to visit the sheikh. So I used to ask, I was Salafi then. I said, I must ask him, what's the sheikh is on? Egypt have a lot of Sufiya in Egypt, you know. He said, the sheikh, he's like, the sheikh, he studied with Sheikh Nasir Banni for 12 years in Jordan. So I said to myself, oh man, I definitely got to meet this particular sheikh. So he took me to meet Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi, Hafidhullah, in his village called Sheen, in his masjid, right? In his particular masjid in Sheen. So when I went there, when he took me to visit the sheikh, alhamdulillah, I seen some, like one or two brothers from America, one brother from Philly, another brother from Texas. They was living there. One was living there and one was studying there. And I went to visit, the brother took me to visit the sheikh, right? So my friend who was Egyptian, they didn't want to leave me there right then and there, because he said that let's go visit first. You visit the sheikh, we talk with him, and the sheikh give you some permission. And if you like it and everything's good for you, we're gonna let you stay there, right? Because my friend and him, his family had money. His brothers were doctors and stuff like that, and they had money. So they said, you feel comfortable? We let you stay there, right? So I went there and I met the Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi. And I introduced myself to him, and he asked me some simple questions. How much Arabic do I understand? It's like, what was the football in Cairo last time you was there? What did they talk about and things like that? And I told him, talking about Siyasa and Philistine and Siyasa. He's like, oh, that's like all the footballs coming from Azhar and the matches of Azhar. That's the typical. So the sheikh was like, you can stay, and he said, I set up a program for you. All right, you come to the masjid, and I set up a program for you where you can learn from some of the sheikh students. He said, where you can learn more about Arabic language, and that's what the sheikh actually did. When I came back, I stayed there about 6 months, alhamdulillah, and the sheikh introduced me to some of his students who are actually sheikh. In Egypt, some of the mashaykh in Egypt, their students, some of the students of the mashaykh in Egypt are shuyukh. Some of their students are shuyukh themselves, right? So the Sheikh introduced me to some of his students who were Sheikh in their own villages, and they usually travel to the Sheikh on the weekends for their studies. So most of his students are also in the Islamic universities. Some of them going for their masters, some of them going for their PhD. His main students. Then you have the typical students in his Mahad, who some of them are just students in Azhar and other Islamic universities trying to get their degree, their bachelor's and things like that. And the Sheikh teach them Deen, right? So I stayed there, alhamdulillah, for about 6, 7 months with the Sheikh. I benefited a lot. Then I decided to get married there, and I left. I left that area from Sheen, which is mashallah to this day Egypt. This is like the Tanta area is very relaxing. You know, a very relaxing place. The people are very religious. You know, in Cairo, you could tell somebody to fear Allah, and they curse you out. They curse out your mother. You know, people in Cairo don't have good manners, right? Not known for having good manners, but the peoples in the village, they're a little bit more God fearing because it's really laid back, and they have a lot of shuyukh in Egypt. Some of the big shuyukh, they live in these particular villages because it's not too hot, not a lot of pollution, and it's village life. Village life is very simple in Egypt. Um, so after with the Sheikh, I continued to stay. That was in Egypt for about altogether 2 years. About 2 years, I worked. I got married there. I worked and I studied privately with certain individuals, and I got to benefit in Egypt also from a second or third round studying Arabic in Cairo, and another like free school and stuff like that. And when I was with the Sheikh in his village, I really was really exposed to Islamic knowledge, right? I was really not just exposed to Islamic knowledge, but I was exposed to how a scholar behave and act, because I could see the Sheikh every day going to his house. You know, I could see the Sheikh going to other villages and other neighborhoods in their village and giving people dawah who are not particular students of knowledge, right? How he dealt with the everyday average Muslims, how he really pushed educating Muslims and teaching them. And I got to see this from the Sheikh, and I even got to see this from his students who are also Sheikh, who lived in other neighboring villages who had their own masjids, right? And I used to visit one of his students. I used to go to their village and see how they give dawah into the people in their neighborhoods. I mean, people in their villages, in their neighborhoods, small community. You know, I got to witness all these particular things. And this is the benefit that you will never get this if you don't go sit with a sheikh to learn Islam. You don't get that, you know. Sometimes in America we go to the masjid, we hear the person on the minbar or the student knowledge on the minbar, or listen to a lecture, but we really don't see how the scholar behave, you know. And that's something experience that I took from sitting with Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi, is seeing how a scholar behave outside the masjid all the time. All right. I remember me and another brother from America was debating on a topic, and we was walking down the street, and the sheikh came. So we said, let's ask the sheikh. You know, he answered the question. Yeah. The one who prays without a sutra. I'll never forget the question. You know, is the one who prays is the sutra a sunnah or wajib? You know, it was a debate between me and one of my associate brother from Philly, and we asked the sheikh the question. He gave us a really good answer. Alhamdulillah. Um, so I benefit a lot from Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi for that 6 months. Then I returned back to Cairo and I worked, and I left Egypt. I was there about for 2 years. I didn't leave on a good note. I really don't like Cairo. I really don't like the atmosphere in Cairo and the people of Cairo. You know, it's not like it's like New York. You know, I'm from New York. It's just like New York. You know, people say it's a Muslim country. So I said, oh man, there's things about Egypt, man, because I married an Egyptian. And I got to learn, you know, my second time in Egypt, you know, was not like my first visit in Egypt. My first visit in Egypt, when I went with a school to learn, most of my companions are roommates, classmates, who are other Westerners. So we're not dealing with Egyptian people. When I decided to go back the second time, I didn't deal with any Westerners. All right. I met some Westerners. You know, some of them to this day they're still in contact with. Some of them might even see this video. But I stayed with the Egyptian peoples, all right? And that's how really you become fluent into the Arabic, understanding culture, understanding the Arabic language. And even Egyptian people have dialect. The peoples from the village have a different dialect in Egypt from the people in Cairo. Right? The peoples in Cairo have a different dialect than the people from Alexandria. The people in Alexandria have a different dialect from the people in Cairo. The people in Cairo, Delta, Alexandria have a different dialect from the people from Upper Egypt, like Said, have a different dialect, right? So I live with the Sheikh. The people in the village have a different dialect, right? Um, so you get to understand people's culture and things like that. Now, continuation from my studies. I left Egypt not on a good note. Had a particular incident where I had to leave the country. It wasn't on a good note. Um, but I came back like in the end of 2009. That's around like November 2009. Never forget how when I came back. And I met Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi again in 2010. He happened to go on a tour across the West, like UK, Canada, US, and other countries. He went on a tour, so he came to Masjid Iman in New York in 2010. So I seen him in Masjid Iman again in 2010. With some other brothers I knew. We met him in the Masjid Iman, which is in the Astoria, Queens. And I'm from Queens, New York myself. And I went to some of his durus and I brought some of my companions to the durus. His advice, the first thing the Sheikh and he seen us, because I didn't know if he remembered me or not, because there's a lot of people, a lot of foreigners even go through his camp and people. So I asked the Sheikh, asked him how he's doing. The Sheikh first question when I seen him in Masjid Iman, he came through the door with some brothers I knew from Philly. The first thing the Sheikh said, the first thing he said, his first question was, he said, how's the dawah, man? How's the dawah? You know, how's the dawah going? That's the first question the Sheikh had. It showed how the Sheikh is persistent, and how scholars are persistent in calling to Allah. And his first question is, how is the dawah? And I told him, let's look at the condition of the people. Even some of his cookballs and his lectures while he was there, he talked about Muslim having an identity, Muslim staying away from zina, or the reality of zina. I can remember some of his talks and stuff like that. So I decided right then and there, at that particular time, to continue to learn. In New York per se, it is not easy to get that type of quality of learning in New York. Particular not in any of the English-speaking masjids. You're not going to get it. Even the Salafi masjids are mostly Americans, English speakers. You're not going to even get it. Even if they have a student of knowledge there, you're not going to get it because everything is going back and forth. Everything's being explained in English, and unfortunately, people are not really serious about the Arabic language. They're not serious about seeking knowledge. I used to visit some of the Arab masjids, and the Arab masjids are likewise, unfortunately, but you get good reminders in the Arabic language. But even they are struggling, and many of them are focusing on financial things and things like this. And, unfortunately, the furthest or the only class that would be consistent you would find these days are classes maybe for Quran, right? So I wanted to really continue my studies. So what I did was I invested some money and time while I was in the U.S. and I hired private teachers 101 from Egypt, because when I lived in Egypt, when I left Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi's camp and to go to work, to get married, I went to work and I got a chance to work with Egyptian peoples, right, in schools. So I got to understand when I was working with them about Egyptians' quality of education, right? I got a chance to learn that. And one or two schools one school, I think the last school I worked in there, um, the director of the English section, she used to ask me to interview peoples for jobs, like Egyptian peoples, and she would tell me what type of qualification she's looking for, what are the signs, what type of interview questions to ask, You know, she was very friendly, but she was about money though. But she, I picked up certain things working with Egyptian peoples about the quality of education, about their degrees and how to see if something legit, the degree is legit or not. No, I picked up these things working there. So when I came back to the U.S., I decided to start learning again, and I did the same thing. I looked and hired teachers from Egypt who had degrees and stuff like that, and I had them send me their degrees, and I interviewed them, and I got demos, right, from them, and see the quality of learning, look at the degrees and look at their qualifications and how well they're able to teach, and even some references for them. And I did this when I came back, and I hired a few teachers. So one of my teachers, before I even get into that, man, uh, before I even get into that, even when I go back to Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi, Hafidhullah, I think that I could give a talk just on the benefit of studying with a scholar. And my time with Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi, even though it was short, I lived in a village. So a village in Egypt is not like city. There's not a lot of things to do there. And you don't have distractions. I wanted to mention that. This is some of the benefits of studying in a village. And some brothers ask me, they want to go to Egypt. Should they go to certain camps or certain scholars and things like that? Sometimes they ask me, should they learn Arabic first or go to the camp? Like when I was there with the Sheikh, you know, if I didn't know Arabic, if I didn't study Arabic in the school, I wouldn't benefit from the Sheikh. I'll let you know that right now. All right, because Arabic is not something you just could pick up in 6 months. It's not something that you could pick up overnight. When it comes to religious studies, there's some things you gotta know. All right, there's things about Arabic language you have to know, and about religious knowledge you have to know. All right. So my time spent in Cairo was very beneficial, and it definitely helped me prepare me when I went to sit with the Sheikh. While I was doing in America learning Arabic, that definitely helped me out a lot. All right. Helped me out a lot because I met some peoples when I was studying Arabic in Egypt that never studied Arabic before. They was having the hardest time. All right. So those things really prepare me when I was with the Sheikh, and I benefit a lot, from the Sheikh, from Usool Fiqh, Usool Tafseer. MashaAllah, I got to sit in knowledge durus on Tafseer of Quran. I got an opportunity to listen to some of the Sharh of Sunnah Imam Bagawi Rahimullah, or Sharh Sunnah of Imam Bagawi Rahimullah. I benefit a lot from the Sheikh's explanation. Even now, I have his audios from the explanation of the Sharh Sunnah Imam Bagawi. That book was very beneficial. Those lessons was very beneficial for me as somebody beginning in seeking knowledge and fiqh and things like that. All right. So to continue, when I was there, when I came back to the U.S., like I said, I hired people from Egypt, private teachers, and once I did that, like I said, I worked in the school before in Egypt, and I picked up about people's, how to hire people's degrees, what's a good degree, what is not, and things like that. Which universities are good for what particular subjects. So I picked up, I hired one teacher, young brother, Isam Juma. MashaAllah, this brother, he was studying in Dar Ulum. He was studying in Dar Ulum. This is one of his tazkiyah he gave me. He studied in Dar Ulum. I'm reading where he studied at. In Jamiat Azhar, and he studied in Dar Ulum, right, in Qahira. He was from, I don't know where he was from. It's a particular place in Egypt he's from. I forgot. I visited there before a long time ago, right? So I got to study with him, al-Jurumiyya, right? I got to study with him, al-Jurumiyya. He wrote me like this tazkiyah, right? The brother was going for his master's. I spoke to him maybe about a few months ago. This is like in 2000 and I don't know, like 2015. So look at the dates. 2014 actually, this is it, right? 2014. Right. So, mashallah, the brother, he's very dedicated. He was going for his master's in linguistics, in Arabic language and linguistics. You know, mashallah, the brother was very beautiful. Egyptian people are very gifted in the Arabic language and teaching it. Um, I got to study with him, al All right. Um, One of the teachers I hired is another brother. He's going for, he should have his master's already. He should be going for his doctorate. I doubt he's doing that. Actually, I got another brother I studied from Lugha, Fiqh, Usool. Looking for some of his stuff. Like I studied with one brother. What is this brother? Actually, I studied one of the Shaykh Abdul Adeem's books with him, al-Wajez. Right? I studied this book with one of the brother. This is one of my brothers. This brothers I studied with, mashallah. Muhammad Mekawi, right? And he has his master's in Sharia, and his bachelor degree is in Lugha Arabi. His bachelor degree is in Arabic language. I got to study him with Warakat, Usul Fiqh, and some books in Lugha and Nahu, and the Shaykh Abdul Adeem Badawi's book, al-Wajez. Unfortunately, when I was in Egypt with Shaykh Abdul Adeem, he was really explaining his book, but I studied his fiqh book. Then after that, I studied with a doctor here from Egypt. I studied with, his name is Shaykh Dr. Hassan Abdul Ghaffar al-Bashir, Hafidullah. This is one of his tazkiyah that he gave me, right? And I studied with the Shaykh Hafidullah, who his PhD is in Sharia and Qanun. Alhamdulillah, I was able to study with the Shaykh a number of books, and this is his tazkiyah that he written me. I studied with him in the Shar al-Bulugh al-Maram, known as Subh al-Salam. I studied with him Mustalah Hadith, this is the name of the book, Tafseer of Mustalah Hadith, from Sheikh's explanation, and also the explanation of Mustalah Hadith from Shaykh Uthaymeen, because Tafseer Mustalah Hadith is a different author. It's a very good book. Everybody wants to study some of the basis of Mustalah Hadith that has a little bit more detailed explanation. This is a good book to study, Tafseer Mustalah Hadith. I study also Mustalah Hadith from Shaykh Salih Uthaymeen rahimahullah with the Shaykh. Aqidah al-Tawheed by Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan. Ashar Aqidah al-Wasatiyya by Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan. Lu'ma Ittiqad, the Shar by the Mufti of Saudi. The Shar kitaabu al-Tawheed by Shaykh Salih al-Fawzan, Hafidhullah. Nahnu Wada and Nahnu Wada Ibtadiyya wa Thanawiyya, right? Ibtadiyya wa Thanawiyya. Right, so I studied this with the Shaykh Hafidullah. I studied with the Shaykh, this particular Shaykh, Shaykh Dr. Hassan Abdul Ghaffar, at least a good 4 years, close to 4 years online. I still had we had a good one-on-one relationship. I hired him as a private teacher, and I was with him maybe from 2015 to the beginning of maybe 2019, right? Until the middle of 2019. I'm gonna try to get in contact with him again. I need to finish some other books and stuff. The Sheikh, mashallah, Tabarak, the Sheikh, he's a professor and also in Azhar University, and the Sheikh is from the village too in Egypt. The Sheikh is from, and the Sheikh is young. And actually, the Sheikh, he is the same age as me. We born the same year, right? And he's from the village. Like I know, I really understand the people from the village in Egypt. They're very good people, have very good hearts, very serious about the Deen. I spent about maybe a good, I think 3 years, 4 years online with this Sheikh. Hafidullah. MashaAllah, I got to benefit a lot from him. One-on-one with him. It's very, even today, even now, I even go back and I reflect on a lot of the lessons I learned with him. Right? So I was blessed to benefit from him. A lot of things related to fiqh, aqidah, usul fiqh, things about the Sharia law, things about marriage. Subul Salam is a very good book to study for fiqh. Very good introduction to fiqh. All right. Then these days, what I did, then it's another one. All right. Now this is a brother gave me a taskia. Oh, I studied some time with him. Actually, this taskia is more like familiarizing with a book. Right. Right. This is Ijaz the Matan Abi Shuja. This is a book. This is a fiqh book, a matan on fiqh, Shafi fiqh. Right. This is the taskia that he written me. All right, and this was more like a self study. All right, this was more like a self study. Read the book, memorize, understand the matin pretty well, and he just give you a little test, ask you little questions on the book pertaining to fiqh. All right, and this is probably maybe last year, maybe somewhere, maybe in the 2019. Yeah, 2019, right? Yeah, 2019. So the end of 2019. These are some of the things I have done related to studying religion, right? Why I bring this up or why I say these things and bring these things is also important. I do it for two reasons. First, it's important to know about people you're taking from, all right? To understand what is their level. The sheikh that I spend the most time with online studying one-on-one with him, Shaykh Dr. Hassan Abdul Ghaffar, Hafidullah, may Allah preserve him. He had worked as an assistant teacher in Medina International University. This is a school out of Malaysia. He even written a few books. I have maybe a few articles or small books or treatises. I have some of them on PDF. He gave me to read and stuff like that. Maybe I would translate some of them from him. But I learned something from that particular sheikh, the 101, is that a student of knowledge never hide who he studies with. And that is something a problem amongst some of the American Muslims who claim to be students of knowledge or teachers, is that when it comes time to ask them who you study with or what have you studied, this is where people get upset. This is where people get attitude and pride. And a student of knowledge never should never should want to hide what he did or what he studied, whether it's small or big. You shouldn't hide it, because when you let people know what you studied, people know what is your level, meaning also what is your limitations. All right, what is your level and what is your limitations. All right. So it's very important for people to let people know what they have studied. All right, what is their tazkiyah, what is their limitations. That's what you get to know. Brothers come out of Islamic college universities, their degree really explain everything about themselves. Mashallah. People study one-on-one with scholars and let people know what is their level, what alhamdulillah, right? Sometimes the people come out of the colleges, the Islamic degrees, they have a higher level, a higher caliber, right? So it's very important to people to explain to people what have you studied, what is your tazkiyah, what is your level, meaning also what is your limitations. And also it opens the door to let people know who I am, meaning that I'm not hiding on Facebook or I'm not hiding on social media. Some people on social media who give dawah, some of them are hiding behind titles or names that really are not who they are. So if you can see here, even this tazkiyah, you can see my real name, right? If you look at it very well, you see my real name, Abul Baraa Muhammad Abdullah Ibn Earl Amreeki. That's who I am. That's my name. That's my real government. Muhammad Abdullah is my real government. Earl, that's the name of my father, the son of Earl, which his father's name is Earl Amreeki, right? Right, that's my family name. So this is who I am. Right? People know who I am. This is me. You have some people hide behind kunya, don't have their full name, and don't explain who they are. And there's a reason why some people hide behind Facebook names or internet names and don't explain who they are. I try not to do that. Right? It does two things. It let people know who I am. Then at the same time, for me, it's like, hey, I don't want to degrade my name online. You know, I don't want to give myself a bad image online. So let me watch how I say things. Let me watch how I behave myself, because hey, this is my real name. It's gonna carry with me wherever I go online. You know, I met a brother once who said, "Hey, Aki, I seen something on you on the internet, on the Google search. It wasn't good. I went to look at it. You know, I said, oh man, there's some yeah, I need some Islamic phobia. People who has Islam, who spread Islamophobia. I said, don't pay attention to that stuff, right? It's very important what your image is. But when I seen it, I had to go look what these people are saying about me. These people are lying, right? Or you have a good image about yourself online, right? It's very important. And at the same time, it keeps you intact, meaning that I'm going to control what I say. I'm going to watch what I say to people. I'm going to watch how I behave. Why? Because if I say something bad or treat somebody wrong, I'm going to tarnish my name, right? Because this is who I really am. This is my real name. So this is why it's very important to give, you know, use real names, and especially people who are teaching, to not just give their real names and let people know who they are, but you're also marketing yourself with this, meaning that you don't want to tarnish your image, right? You don't want to tarnish your image like this. So that's a little bit about myself, um, because sometimes people on Facebook or people on social media, they hide behind names and they be doing this and doing that. You don't want to tarnish your name. But me personally, it's very important that that helps me. Like, hey, I'm gonna act up, man. Let me watch what I say. Let me not tell this person off, all right? But some people need to be told off. But it helps you to deal with people.